You deleted what? By user that train. I was working an alternating 12-hour help desk shift for a large parts wholesaler and during the day, received a request to delete an empty subfolder on a NAS that houses all the quotes for the biggest city in our state. Doing my due diligence, I pass the request on to the night shift guy so that he can do it overnight where it won't affect anyone and so that I don't have to do it. I come back the next morning and ask him if he deleted the folder. Yes, he says, but I accidentally deleted the parent folder also. Sorry. The parent folder held all of the quotes for the entire sales department. All of them. And he just deleted it. And then left when his shift was over. I start scrambling and go to our server team to ask if they have backups for that NAS. Of course they don't, so I was just told to brace for impact once the CEO finds out. Of course he finds out from the owner of the company who had received a call from that sales department at 7 a.m. asking what happened to their quotes and starts burning down villages on his way to the IT room. And then there I am having to try to clean up the mess from the night shift guy who is now persona non grata according to the higher UPS, to the point where I had to send a written statement about the series of events that led to this guy deleting a folder full of super important quotes and why he did it. I tried to type it up in a way that maybe softened the blow a little since it was an accident. Thankfully, this was the second week of the year, so it was 2 weeks of quotes and not 2 years. They were able to scrabble together most of the quotes from their emails, etc., so business wasn't harmed too much as far as I knew. And the guy who was working night shift that week somehow didn't get fired either. He wasn't a screw-up generally, so that probably helped his cause. And the fact that he wasn't there to face the consequences probably helped. Night shift cures all wounds. It didn't help me, though. Edit. Many have suggested that backups should have been in place and why weren't they? The answer to both of those questions is yes. If you allow users to get lost, they will, by user Chavril Freak. I've recently taken over support for an online survey platform that my workplace is developing. We have 2 domains that we service ourselves, a generic $site which has paywalled features, and $site.academia which is accessible to anyone in academia for free. We also offer white label options for other companies to host our tool on their own servers, or we can set up a virtual domain for them with custom skins and a URL reflecting their company name. These companies are given 2 options for managing their users. They can disable the default registration page and have all users added internally by a manager, or they can leave the registration page up so that literally anyone who happens to wander over can make an account there. Which isn't really a security risk, since basic users can't access anything outside of their own accounts, but still, you'd think that companies wouldn't want random people mooching off a service they're paying for, sometimes even with a limited number of users. There's no way anyone would choose to leave the registration form enabled like that, right? Wrong, obviously very wrong. Most of these installations have less than 10 users, but some managers still don't want to enter them manually, so they instead opt to leave the registration form enabled and just tell their coworkers where to make an account. Predictably, that also means that sometimes other external users slip in accidentally. Q last month, just before the holidays. A ticket comes in with a somewhat higher level of panic than usual, but alright, let's see what we've got. Help, I can't log into my account. Miss, I would like to direct your attention to the Forgot Your Password button right beneath the login form, where you can reset your password. It says my account doesn't exist. Classic. Probably just another user stumbling over to $site from $site.academia or vice versa. So I grab her email, check the $site.academia user base and find nothing. But the account does show up in the $site database, so problem solved. Just gotta confirm she's on the wrong domain and send her on her way. Miss, could I ask for a screenshot of the page you are trying to log into? I attached the pictures. I could log in now, but my surveys aren't there. Upon reviewing the pictures, I can immediately tell this was gonna be a bigger problem than I anticipated, both because she was actually logging into the right domain, but also because the screenshots I received were photos she took of her computer screen with a phone. I put down my cup of tea and dig in. I expand the user details in the $site database and see that not only is the account empty, it's also just been created minutes ago, probably right before I looked it up. And upon exiting the search, I can now also see about 4 or 5 more new accounts with her name and various different emails, Hotmail, Yahoo, 3 different Gmails, the whole suite. I guess in a state of pure panic, she started registering with new accounts in hopes of finding her old data there somehow? Beats me. I take all those addresses and run them through the $site.academia database, just to confirm she really doesn't have an account there. I also do a more generic broad match search with her name, and nothing comes up. But she didn't have an account on the $site domain before today, so either she was hallucinating using our service, or we'd somehow lost an entire user and all their data. Which would be a first, but technically not impossible. Definitely not what I want to send to our dev team first thing in the morning though. So before committing the cardinal sin of prematurely escalating a ticket, I consider that maybe, she has somehow wandered over to our generic $site domain from a private company domain instead. Her email replies did come with a signature and footer of, a kindergarten? Not our usual clientele, but okay, I checked the list of our business clients and nope, they're not on there. On the verge of giving up and with her account still nowhere to be seen, I throw a Hail Mary and hope she can at least help me with a proverbial smoke signal as to the general direction of where the fuck this account is supposed to be. Miss, could I ask you to search your email inbox on $this_email for standard account confirmation subject template and forward us that message, if you find any? I wait. I go back to my tea. The lady clearly has a small armada of email accounts at her disposal, so my hopes aren't high, but if we can find her account confirmation email, at least we'll narrow down what domain she registered on, and with which email. FW, account confirmation / you have successfully registered with $this_email on $bigfuckinginstitute.surveys. Please click the link below to confirm your email. Oh okay, well, we found her, I guess? I type out instructions for her to log on to the $bigfuckinginstitute.surveys domain, but as I'm copy-pasting in the template explanation that accounts are not merged between different domains and so on, it does occur to me that this is still kinda weird, because $bigfuckinginstitute has a very rigid corporate structure and they're generally strict about their users not signing up with personal emails. But maybe this user was an external collaborator? Who knows, it's none of my business at the end of the day. Blah 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 domains, blah 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 accounts, please log in at $bigfuckinginstitute.surveys instead of $site and your surveys will be there. I went there, but it says my account doesn't exist again. Great, we're back at the start again somehow. I fire off an email to a coworker who can check the user bases for external company domains, and respond to the user while I'm waiting. We will look into it. Miss, could you confirm if you've ever worked at or with $bigfuckinginstitute before? We are trying to establish why your account is on their domain. I don't know, I had this account for years but now it's all gone and I can't log in. I start to suspect what may have happened, and shortly afterwards, my coworker calls me to confirm. For some reason, $bigfuckinginstitute had the registration form enabled on their domain up until recently. They've changed the setting now and asked us for a routine purge of any accounts that don't use the @bigfuckinginstitute email address. The purge is something we usually apply to remove employees' personal email accounts, but it obviously works for lost users as well. Out of curiosity, I checked the account confirmation email that the user forwarded to me, and saw her account was created all the way back in 2019. So for the past 4 years, this lady had been merrily going about her business, using the full unrestricted functionalities of our tool that $bigfuckinginstitute was paying for on their own domain. We've had lost users like that before, but usually if they're technologically inept enough to register for an account on the wrong version of the service, they don't end up using the tool anyway since it's pretty complex. At best, we get a worried manager every now and then asking what this unknown @Gmail account is doing on their domain, at which point we are finally able to convince them to disable the registration form. We then run the user purge script and boom, dead never used lost user accounts are gone. But in this case, we somehow purged an account that's been very active for 4 years. In the end, we hit up $bigfuckinginstitute with a brief "Yeah, this situation happened and technically this is your fault since you left the registration form enabled. Can we please give this user temporary access so that they can move their surveys to the generic $site domain?" And I spent some time on the phone with the user to reassure her she hadn't done anything wrong and wasn't in any trouble. Sometimes, users lie. But other times, they stumble down a perplexing fuck-up through no fault of their own, simply because a massive company couldn't be arsed to assign someone to manually enter a dozen emails. It's good to be prepared. But this, by user the truly epic. The MSP I work for that I posted about last week just so happens to also be a rural ISP. We have fiber internet to customers in the same town as our office. This town is pretty old-fashioned. The company I work for has been doing telephones since the 1920s. Some people still call the fire chief's phone number instead of 911. I get this call from a residential customer who I'm having trouble hearing. He sounds like kind of an older guy, so I tell him I'm having trouble hearing him. Me, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, I think we have a bad connection. Guy, oh, that's all right. Just call me on my landline. Me, already having his account pulled up so I know what his number is. All right, no problem. What's that phone number for you? Guy, it's 1234. Bet you're too young to remember when you only had to dial 4 numbers. He was right. I'm quite young. But, I do work for a telephone company, so of course I knew that. In case you didn't know, phone numbers are made of 3 components. You know the area code, but the next 3 numbers are actually the locality, essentially, an area code in an area code. You didn't always need to dial the first 3 if you were calling to the same locality. Me, no, sir, I didn't know that. I'll go ahead and call your landline now. I disconnected and called him on his landline. I could hear him much better now. Now it's time to get down to why he was calling. Guy, I was calling to see how much power your VoIP equipment here is using. Me, oh shit, I actually don't know. I can certainly find out for you. Do you mind if I put you on hold while I check with our engineers? Guy, yeah sure, go ahead. So I turn to my other techs and ask. At this point I'm not sure if he's even asking about our ONT for the fiber internet or the ATA for the phone. Neither uses a lot of power, so we come up with the idea of saying it doesn't use much more than a phone charger. I take him off hold. Guy, right, but exactly how much power are we talking here? Me, like, the amount of watts? Guy, yeah. Me, I don't know, I'd say about 5 or 10. Guy, alright, how long do you think it would stay running for with a regular generator? Me, what the fuck? You know, I'm not sure. It would all depend on the kind of generator you had and how much fuel you have. Can I ask why you're hooking our equipment up to a generator? Guy, rambling passionately, well, I'm just trying to prepare for that EMP that's coming. I read it on Breitbart, that's a reliable source, you know. I wanna be prepared for when there's no power after that. You know how all our power is imported from China and all that. Well, I just want to get off the grid now. Me, I see. Well, we ask that you don't tamper with our equipment like that. We'll have to bill you for the replacement of your damage. Guy, getting angry, well, how am I supposed to use it if I have a generator? Me, it's tied into the rest of your home's power system, so as long as your house has power, your equipment will too. Guy, oh, well, why didn't you say so? I've already got a way to do that. So the internet will work, then? Me, well, sir, in the event of an EMP, our service and equipment will be taken out with it. Even if you have power, we won't. Guy, well, you should talk to your bosses about getting a generator then. I did not want to tell him about how EMPs actually work, how we, in Idaho, get our power from the many river dams, or how we actually do have a diesel generator the size of his trailer he lives in and backup batteries to last us for about 2 weeks with no power. Me, I definitely will. Have a great rest of your day. I guess it's good to be prepared. Holiday Family Tech Support Fun, by user Obsessive About Cats. I am a software developer. I have several relatives who know u/obsessive about cats works on computers, so she can fix mine. The fact that I usually can does nothing to disabuse them of this notion. I hope this story will be welcome here. It was one day near Christmas. One such relative hands me his phone and says it's running really slowly, can I please help? Sure enough, it is running really slowly. Any screen press has a 3 to 5 second lag time before action is taken. I restart the phone. No difference, relative did try that. Points to him. I start digging. Turns out a bunch of the Android background apps have been disabled. Pretty much everything he didn't recognize was turned off, and he complained that Android was turning some of them back on without his permission. Oh yeah, I did that because I didn't need those. The phone will run faster without them. I just stared. First time setup pains, by user Supertsenki. I had a new faculty setup this morning that I thought would go smoothly. Just the standard MacBook Pro, 2 monitors, no extra software requested or anything. Boy was I wrong. When I got to her office I booted up the laptop and connected it to Ethernet. I asked if she'd set up her university email, and she hadn't yet. This happens occasionally, so I tell her she needs to call our help desk first to get that set up. She does, and I didn't realize they had instructions to go online, go through the first time sign in on our office portal. So we do that and find out how the default temporary password is generated for each user, but it doesn't work. I try it and can't get in. We call the help desk again but can't get through to anyone, and get their voicemail. She can't log in without this, so I call a couple managers I know at the help desk and one is able to reset her password. So we finally get past the first screen, and she has to create her password. I watch her try to create one a few times, but it's not meeting the requirements. We go and confirm the requirements, standard uppercase and lowercase letters, one number, one special character, but she can't seem to meet the requirement. It suggests a secure password. She asks if she should just use that and tell her to just to get on with it, but highly advise using a password manager if she doesn't already have one. After that she's finally able to log into the computer. Then I start setting up her monitors. I go to plug the first one in only to realize that the power strip isn't plugged in, and in this building, for whatever reason the desks are set up to be flush with the wall, which make it impossible to get behind them without moving them, and these desks are heavy, not really a one-person job for most people. I wasn't going to ask her for help moving the desk, so explain that typically we have to place a facilities ticket, wait for them to come by and move it/plug it in. Without even asking, she just offers to move the desk and we get it out just enough to plug the power strip in. I get her 2 monitors set up, but I guess she's never had 2 before and was struggling with moving windows back and forth. I tried to help her but she seemed apprehensive still, and I remember her mentioning she didn't know that 2 were requested for her. So I asked her if she still wanted both or just wanted to keep the nicer one. She opted to just have 1 monitor, so I then had to put everything back in the monitor box. While all of that could have been worse, most of my setups for new users are not that complicated.